You already know the truth. You've known it for a long time. But for some reason, you're still here, still waiting, still hoping that maybe, just maybe, this time will be different. That this time he'll finally see your worth, step up, and treat you the way you deserve. But deep down, you already know what I'm about to tell you. He's not confused. He's not just bad at communication. He's not struggling with commitment. He knows exactly what he's doing, and the longer you tolerate it, the longer he will keep doing it. I know that stings, and I need you to sit with that pain for a moment, because it's the truth, and the truth is the only thing that will set you free. The late replies, the mixed signals, the attention that comes in waves. Just enough to keep you hooked, but never enough to make you feel secure. It's all part of the game. And every time you take him back, every time you accept his excuses, every time you justify his behavior, you teach him one thing, that he doesn't have to change because you're not going anywhere. A man will only treat you as badly as you allow him to. And right now, you're allowing it. You're letting him get away with things that deep down you know are unacceptable. You are giving him space in your life, your heart, and your mind when he doesn't deserve any of it. And the worst part? You're doing it to yourself. You are choosing to stay in a situation that is breaking you, draining you, and making you doubt yourself. One of my colleagues went through the same thing. She was smart, independent, beautiful, the kind of woman who could light up any room she walked into. But behind closed doors, she was stuck in a cycle with a man who treated her like an option. He would disappear for days, then come back with apologies and sweet words, and she would forgive him every single time. He would cancel plans last minute, always making excuses, and she would tell herself he was just busy. She would catch him texting other women, flirting right in front of her face, and somehow he always had an explanation. And every time she found the strength to leave, he would suddenly become the man she always wanted him to be. Flowers, love bombs, promises of change, just enough to pull her back in. She wasted 3 years of her life waiting for him to change, 3 years of anxiety, of checking her phone every few minutes, of wondering if she was enough, 3 years of feeling like she had to earn his love, when love should never be something you have to earn. And do you want to know how it ended? She finally left. Not because he changed, not because he did something terrible, but because one day she woke up and realized that she was exhausted. She was tired of feeling like she had to prove her worth, tired of waiting for a text, tired of making excuses for a man who had never truly prioritized her. And when she walked away, she never looked back. She blocked his number, deleted his photos, and promised herself that she would never again allow a man to treat her like an afterthought. And you know what happened next? He came running, begging, pleading. Suddenly, he was ready to commit. Suddenly, he realized what he had lost. But by then, it was too late, because she'd already won. She'd finally chosen herself, and for the first time in years, she felt free. And you? You're still stuck in a maze that he created, chasing something that will never be real. Because if he truly wanted to be with you, he would be with you. If he truly loved you, you wouldn't be confused. Love isn't meant to feel like this. Love isn't a puzzle to solve or a game to win. Love is clarity. Love is consistency. Love is effort. But what you have, that's not love. That's control. And I know what you're thinking. But what if he really does care? What if he just needs time? What if I walk away and regret it? Let me ask you this instead. How much more time are you willing to waste? How many more nights are you willing to spend staring at your phone, waiting for him to reply? How many more mornings are you going to wake up with that sinking feeling in your stomach, knowing that you deserve better, but still choosing to stay? Would you stay at a job that sometimes pays you and sometimes doesn't? Would you live in a house where the electricity sometimes works and sometimes doesn't? Would you accept a friendship where someone sometimes respects you and sometimes doesn't? No. So why are you making an exception for a man? I'm telling you this because I need you to wake up. I need you to stop playing this game. Because as long as you keep showing up, as long as you keep giving him chances, he has no reason to change. The second you stop playing, the game ends. The second you walk away, you win. And walking away, it's not about making him regret losing you. It's not about teaching him a lesson. It's about saving yourself. It's about reclaiming all of the energy you wasted on him and putting it back where it belongs, on you. So here's what you're going to do. You're going to block him. You're going to delete the messages, the photos, the memories that are keeping you stuck. You're going to stop checking his social media. Stop wondering if he misses you. Stop looking for closure that you already have. Because the only closure you need is this. He was never worthy of you in the first place. And yes, it will hurt. It will feel impossible at first. But you know what hurts more? Staying. Staying is breaking you. Staying is stealing your joy, your confidence, your self-worth. And the longer you stay, the more of yourself you lose. I want you to say this with me right now. I am not a game to be played. I am a queen, and I set the rules. Say it out loud. Write it in the comments. Let it sink in. Because from this moment on, you are no longer begging for attention. You are no longer waiting for a man to choose you. You are no longer playing along with someone who sees you as replaceable. You are choosing yourself. And the second you do, the game is over. Number 1. He thinks you're his puppet. Cut the strings and burn the stage. A man like this doesn't choose just any woman. He chooses the one he thinks he can mold, the one he believes will bend without breaking, the one who will keep giving even when there's nothing left to take. He chooses you because he sees your kindness and mistakes it for weakness. He watches how you forgive, how you hold on, how you look for the best in him even when he gives you every reason not to. And he thinks, I can control her. But here's where he gets it wrong. You are not his puppet. And the moment you realize that, the game ends. One of my colleagues was once in your shoes. A woman with fire in her soul and a light that could blind anyone lucky enough to stand in her presence. But she didn't see it. Not yet. Because she had wrapped her world around a man who saw her love as something to be manipulated. He knew exactly what to say to keep her hanging on. He would pull away just enough to make her question everything, then swoop back in with just enough affection to make her stay. A never-ending cycle of confusion, false hope, and disappointment. And every time she thought about leaving, he sensed it. Like clockwork, he would suddenly become the man she wished he could be. Loving, attentive, apologetic, a master manipulator in disguise. That's the thing about men like him. They're not careless, they're calculated. They know exactly when to act, when to pull back, when to make you doubt yourself. Because doubt is what keeps you in place. Doubt is what makes you question whether you're overreacting, whether you're expecting too much, whether you should just give it more time. But let's clear that doubt up right now. If a man makes you question your own worth, if you constantly feel confused, exhausted and drained, He's manipulating you, whether he realizes it or not, whether it's intentional or instinctual. The result is the same. You lose yourself trying to keep him. Now, I know what you're thinking. What if he doesn't know he's doing it? What if he's just scared of love? What if he really does care, but doesn't know how to show it? And to that, I say, who cares? Do you think your soul recognizes the difference between intentional manipulation and careless neglect? Do you think your body doesn't feel the exhaustion either way? Do you think your heart makes a distinction between a man who is knowingly hurting you and a man who is just too emotionally immature to love you properly? Pain is pain, and your peace should not be the price you pay to accommodate his dysfunction. My colleague learned this the hard way. She spent months, years, waiting for him to change, justifying his coldness, his mind games, his inconsistency. She thought if she loved him enough, if she proved herself enough, he would finally see her worth. But do you know what finally woke her up? One day, she asked herself a simple question. If I was my best friend, what would I tell her to do? And the answer was clear as day: run. So she did. She blocked him, deleted his number, and cut him off completely. And the first few days? Hell. She questioned herself, wondered if she had made a mistake, even picked up her phone to text him, only to stop herself. Because she realized something. Every time she had given in before, every time she had let him back in, she had never felt better afterward, only emptier, only more disappointed in herself. So this time? She held the line. And do you know what happened? At first, silence, then panic, then desperation. Because when a man loses control of his puppet, he starts to fall apart. The moment she stopped reacting, stopped chasing, stopped playing into his carefully laid out script, the strings snapped, and suddenly he was the one dangling, powerless. But by then, she didn't care anymore. And that is what I want for you. Because right now, whether you see it or not, he thinks he has you figured out. He thinks he can predict your every move. He knows exactly what to say to pull you back in, exactly how long to ignore you before you crack, exactly when to show you affection so you stay stuck in the cycle. Prove him wrong. Imagine yourself on a stage and he's in the audience, holding the strings. He tugs, expecting you to move. But this time, you don't. He pulls harder, expecting the usual reaction. But still, nothing. And then you do something he never saw coming. You stand up, rip the strings off, and burn the entire stage to the ground. That's power. That's freedom. That's what it looks like when a woman stops doubting herself and starts acting on what she already knows, that she deserves better. Now, you might be scared. You might feel like walking away means losing something. But let me tell you this. The only thing you're losing is the illusion that he was ever the man you needed him to be. Read that again. Let it sink in. A man who truly values you doesn't make you question where you stand. He doesn't keep you on edge. He doesn't make love feel like a never-ending test that you have to pass. Love should feel safe. Love should feel secure. Love should not feel like a battlefield where you are constantly fighting just to be seen. So, say this with me right now. I am not a puppet. I am the master of my own fate. And don't just whisper it, write it in the comments. Let the world know that you are done entertaining men who see your love as a game. Done justifying, done waiting, done hoping that one day he will magically become the man you need. Because the moment you cut those strings, he will be the one scrambling, trying to figure out how he lost the woman he thought he controlled. And by then, you'll be too far gone to care. Number 2. He thinks he owns the clock. Smash it and walk away. He's got you waiting for his text, waiting for him to decide what he wants, waiting for him to finally get it together. And every time you hold on just a little longer, telling yourself maybe this time, you're feeding into the illusion he's created, an illusion where he controls the timeline, where he decides when and if things move forward. But let's be clear about something. A man who values you doesn't keep you waiting. A man who keeps you waiting isn't buying time. He's wasting it. And the moment you stop waiting, his clock stops ticking. How many times have you dropped everything for him? How many times have you adjusted your schedule to fit into his? How many times have you put your own life on pause because he said he needed time to figure things out? And tell me this, what has waiting ever gotten you? You're still in the same spot, holding your breath, hoping that one day he'll finally see your worth, finally choose you, finally commit. Meanwhile, he's out there, living his life on his own terms, without a care in the world. Let's put this in perspective. Imagine you're at a train station, holding a ticket to a destination you've always dreamed of. But the train doesn't come. An hour passes, then 2, then 3. You tell yourself it's just delayed, that you should hold on a little longer. Meanwhile, other trains are arriving, taking people to incredible places, but you don't board them. Why? Because you're too busy waiting for the train that might never arrive. That's what he's doing, keeping you stuck in his timeline while your life is passing you by. And I already know what's running through your head. What if I stop waiting and he finally decides he's ready? Then let me ask you this. Why would you want a man who only realizes your worth once you're gone? Love isn't something that takes years to figure out. Commitment isn't a puzzle that requires endless time to solve. A man who is serious about you doesn't risk losing you just to think things through. If he's not stepping up, he's already made his decision, and it's not the one you deserve. But what if leaving feels like giving up? Let me make this very clear. Walking away is not giving up. Walking away is taking back control. It's refusing to waste another second of your precious time on someone who doesn't respect it. It's choosing to stop holding space for someone who isn't meeting you halfway. It's realizing that you deserve someone who is certain about you, not someone who needs to figure it out while you sit there, waiting like an afterthought. So, how do you flip the script? You stop waiting. You stop answering his last-minute texts. You stop rearranging your plans to accommodate his inconsistency. You stop putting your own life on hold for someone who doesn't even have a plan. And instead, you start living on your own timeline. The moment you do this, the shift is instant. At first, he won't notice. But then, when his usual tricks don't work, when you don't reply instantly, when you're suddenly too busy, when he realizes he's no longer in control, he will start to panic. He'll reach out. He'll act like nothing happened. He'll try to charm his way back in, throw out vague promises, make it seem like he's finally ready. Don't fall for it. Because if he really valued you, he wouldn't have waited until he lost you to step up. And here's what you need to hear. Flipping the script isn't about revenge. It's not about punishing him. It's not about making him regret it, though he will. It's about prioritizing yourself. It's about reclaiming the time you've spent waiting for someone who didn't deserve it and investing it back into your own life. It's about recognizing that your time is valuable and anyone who wastes it doesn't deserve access to you. Now, let's go back to that train station. Imagine you finally stop waiting for that delayed train. You look around, see another train pulling in, one heading to an even better destination, and you get on. You leave the station, and as you move forward, you realize something incredible. This train isn't just better, it's the one you were meant to be on all along. Because the train you were waiting for, it was never coming. And the moment you let go of the idea that it was, you became free. This transformation doesn't happen overnight. It takes time, effort, and a lot of self-reflection. But once you start living on your own timeline, everything changes. No more feeling stuck. No more feeling powerless. No more waiting. Because a woman who stops waiting and starts living, she's unstoppable. And the man who once controlled the clock, he's still out there, stuck in his own game, wondering where he went wrong. Now, I need you to say this out loud. I control my timeline. My life doesn't wait for anyone. And don't just say it, live it. No more waiting, no more hoping, no more standing still while he decides whether or not you're worth it. You were always worth it. And the second you start living like you know that, he loses. You win. Number 3. He thinks he's a mastermind. Expose him for the coward he is. He thinks he's smart. He thinks he's playing you without you even noticing. The mixed signals, the vague excuses, the sudden shifts in energy. He believes it's all going over your head. But deep down, you already know something isn't right. The problem isn't that you don't see it. The problem is that you keep second-guessing yourself. A man like this thrives in the gray area. He doesn't lie outright. He just tells half-truths. He doesn't ignore you completely. He just gives you enough attention to keep you confused. He won't say he doesn't want a relationship, but he'll avoid defining what you are. He makes sure everything is just unclear enough to keep you questioning. And you? You've been too polite to call him out. Let's be real. He's not some brilliant strategist. He's not playing a game of chess while you're playing checkers. His moves aren't genius. They're just cowardly. Because a real man, one who actually values you, doesn't need to manipulate you to keep you around. A man who plays subtle games isn't clever. He's just a coward dressed as a mastermind. He cancels plans last minute and assumes you'll brush it off. He texts you when he's bored, but never when it matters. He disappears when things start getting serious, only to show up again when he feels you slipping away. He's testing how much you'll tolerate, how much of yourself you'll sacrifice for him. And every time you let his behavior slide, you teach him that he can get away with it. But here's what he doesn't see coming. You're about to flip the script. Think of it like this. You're at a magician's show. He thinks he's dazzling you with his sleight of hand, but you already see the card tucked up his sleeve. That's him. That's his game. The only reason his tricks have worked this long, because you've been polite enough not to call them out. But now, you're done playing along. I know what you might be thinking. What if I'm overreacting? What if I'm being too harsh? Let's put it this way. If a man's natural behavior makes you feel anxious, insecure, or confused, that's not harmless. That's manipulation. Whether it's intentional or not, the effect is the same. He keeps you second-guessing yourself while he gets exactly what he wants. A man who truly cares about you won't make you feel like you have to decode his actions. And if he doesn't care enough to be clear with you, then you shouldn't care enough to stay. So how do you call him out? You don't need to argue. You don't need to demand explanations. You don't need to scream and beg for clarity from a man who already knows what he's doing. The power's in calm, direct truth. When he cancels plans last minute, I don't wait around for people who don't value my time. When he disappears and resurfaces with a lazy excuse, I don't entertain inconsistency. When he keeps dodging real conversations about where this is going, I'm not interested in confusion. No long explanations, no over-explaining, no pleading for him to see your worth. Say it once, say it with confidence, and let him deal with the fact that his tricks don't work anymore. Here's what's going to happen next. He's going to panic. He's going to get defensive. He's going to act like you're crazy for thinking this way. He's going to try to turn it around on you, make you feel like you're the problem. This is his last-ditch effort to keep you under control. Do not fall for it. And I already know the next doubt creeping in. What if calling him out pushes him away? Good. Let him go. Because let's be real, if holding him accountable makes him leave, then he was never going to be the man you needed him to be. A man who respects you won't walk away just because you set a standard. A man who actually wants to be with you won't crumble just because you demand consistency. And if he does, that's not your loss. That's your blessing in disguise. Do you really want to keep a man who only stays as long as you tolerate his games? If the only way to keep him is to stay silent, to accept disrespect, to let him play you like a puppet, then what exactly are you holding on to? Because that's not love, that's control. Here's what happens when you call him out. He realizes you're not like the others. He realizes you see right through him, and suddenly he's the one scrambling. Because for the first time, he's lost control of the game. But by then, you won't even care. Because you'll realize something powerful. Calling him out was never about him. It was about you. It was about proving to yourself that you don't need to settle for mind games. It was about stepping into your power, demanding clarity, and refusing to be played. A woman who holds a man accountable commands respect, and a man who isn't capable of respect doesn't deserve access to her. So say this out loud, right now. I refuse to entertain disrespect disguised as subtlety. And don't just say it, live it. Because the moment you stop entertaining his games, you win. And he will spend a lifetime regretting that he ever thought he could play you. Number 4, he thinks he's irreplaceable. Show him he's not. He thinks you won't leave. He thinks no matter how many times he ignores your needs, you'll stay. No matter how many times he pulls away, you'll wait. No matter how many times he disappoints you, you'll forgive. He believes he has something that no other man does. Some special hold over you that makes him untouchable, unreplaceable, irreplaceable. And the worst part? You've let him believe it. Every time you take him back, every time you settle for the bare minimum, every time you accept his weak apologies without real change, you confirm his belief that he's one of a kind. But let's get something straight. No man on this earth is irreplaceable. Read that again. Let it sink in. There are billions of men in this world. What makes you think that this one, this inconsistent, unreliable, emotionally unavailable man, is the best you'll ever do? What has he actually done to earn that pedestal you've put him on? Because let's be honest, if he truly was irreplaceable, you wouldn't be sitting here, questioning your worth, wondering if he cares, hoping he'll change. A man of real value doesn't leave you feeling like you're begging for love. He treats you like a priority, not an option. And the fact that you're even doubting this, that's the proof you need that he's not irreplaceable at all. Let's put it in perspective. Imagine walking into a store and seeing a cheap plastic necklace sitting in the display case with a price tag that says priceless. Would you believe it? Or would you laugh at the ridiculousness of it? That's what he's doing. He's convinced you that he's a rare diamond, when in reality he's a dime a dozen fake. And it's time for you to stop treating him like gold when he's barely worth bronze. I know what you're thinking. But I love him. What if no one else makes me feel this way? Let's get real. The love you feel. It's not love. It's attachment. It's the emotional roller coaster he's put you on, the highs and lows, the unpredictability that keeps you craving his validation. It's not passion, it's a trauma bond. Because real love does not feel like this. Real love does not leave you questioning your worth. Real love does not make you feel disposable. Real love does not require you to prove yourself over and over again. So stop calling it love. Call it what it is. A cycle you need to break. And the best way to break it? Show him that he is not, and never was, irreplaceable. Stop answering his texts immediately. Stop rearranging your life to fit into his. Stop waiting for him to choose you when you should have already chosen yourself. Because the moment you do, he will feel it. He will sense the shift. The panic will set in. He will start to wonder why you're not reacting the way you used to, why you're not as available, why you're slipping out of his grasp. And suddenly, the man who thought he was so special, so unique, so irreplaceable, will be forced to face the truth. He was never that special to begin with. Because here's what you need to understand. A man who truly values you does not put himself in a position to lose you. And if he thought he could treat you like an afterthought and still have a permanent place in your life, that's his mistake. So now, prove him wrong. Step into the mindset of the woman who knows her worth. The woman who doesn't chase, doesn't beg, doesn't tolerate half-hearted love. You think Beyoncé cried over the men who didn't see her worth? You think Rihanna sat around hoping a man would finally appreciate her? No, because women who know their value don't mourn men who never deserved them, and neither should you. Say this out loud right now. No man is irreplaceable. My worth is not up for debate. Now live by it. Because the second you show him that you are no longer begging for his time, his attention, his love, he will finally understand what it means to lose a woman like you. And by then, you'll be long gone. Number 5. He thinks you'll settle, raise your standards. He assumes you'll take whatever he gives. The inconsistency, the half-hearted effort, the excuses. He believes you'll accept it all because you're afraid to lose him. And so far, you have. Every time you forgive his broken promises, every time you lower your expectations to match his weak efforts, every time you tell yourself, at least he's trying, you are proving him right. But let me ask you something. When did you start believing that this was the best you could get? When did you start thinking that bare minimum effort was enough for a woman like you? That scraps of affection, delayed responses, and last-minute plans were the kind of love you deserved. Because let me tell you this, you don't get what you deserve, you get what you tolerate. And right now, you're tolerating far too little. A man will only rise to the level of expectation that you set. And the moment you lower those standards, even once, you teach him that he can get away with less. So if you keep accepting half love, you will never experience the full love you deserve. This isn't about demanding perfection. This is about demanding effort. Because a man who truly wants to be with you will not risk losing you by offering you anything less than his best. But right now, you're making it too easy for him. Think about it. If he knows you'll stay no matter how little he gives, why would he ever give more? He won't. He has no reason to. But here's what's about to happen. You are going to change the game. You are going to stop settling. You are going to stop accepting half effort. You're going to stop pretending that potential is enough when a man is showing you every single day exactly who he is. And the moment you do, everything shifts. Because a man who truly wants you will step up, and a man who doesn't will fall away. Either way, you win. So stop waiting for him to rise to the occasion. Stop begging for what should be the bare minimum. Stop lowering yourself to fit into a love that was never built to hold you. Because you were not born to settle. You were not created to shrink yourself just so a man doesn't feel intimidated by your worth. A queen does not lower her crown just to make a weak man feel like a king. So, say this out loud. I refuse to settle. I set the standard. And from this moment forward, live by it. Because the woman who raises her standards is the woman who gets everything she deserves. Number 6. He thinks his breadcrumbs are enough. Starve him out. He gives you just enough to keep you hungry. A random compliment here, a sweet text there. A few days of attention, then silence. Just when you start pulling away, he reels you back in with just enough affection to reset the cycle. And you keep taking the crumbs, hoping one day he'll finally give you the whole damn meal. But let's get something straight. Crumbs are for birds, not queens. Every time you accept his half-hearted effort, every time you settle for just enough, you tell him that this is all he has to do, that you will stay even if he only feeds you scraps. But what has this almost love actually done for you? Has it made you feel valued? Has it made you feel secure? Has it made you feel like the prize that you are? No. It has left you anxious, confused, doubting yourself. Because that's what breadcrumbs do. They keep you starving just enough to stay, but never enough to be full. And here's the truth. He doesn't want you to realize. You don't need his crumbs. He's not your source of love. He's not the only man out there. And he sure as hell isn't worth your hunger. So, starve him out. Stop reacting when he throws you a crumb of attention. Stop falling for the same recycled sweet words. Stop mistaking inconsistency for love. Because love is a feast. Love is abundance. Love is security. And the second you stop eating from his empty hands, he loses all control over you. Picture this. You have a table full of food in front of you, rich, nourishing, satisfying, and yet you've been crawling around on the floor, chasing after the crumbs he throws your way. Stand up, walk away, sit at the table where you belong, because a man who truly wants you won't keep you starving. He will bring the whole meal. He will fill your soul, not just your insecurities. So, say this out loud. I refuse to survive on crumbs. I deserve the feast. And live like you mean it. Because the moment you starve him out, he'll realize his breadcrumbs were never enough to keep a woman like you. And by then, you'll already be full on a life that no longer includes him. Number 7. He thinks you're playing his game. End it. He thinks he's in control. He thinks you're still caught in his web, still responding to his tactics, still moving to the rhythm of his inconsistent attention. To him, it's a game. He pulls away, you chase. He leaves you waiting, you hold on. He gives just enough to keep you invested, then takes it away to remind you who's in charge. But what he doesn't realize, you're about to flip the board and walk away. See, a man like this doesn't play fair. He doesn't love with honesty. He doesn't build with consistency. His entire strategy is keeping you uncertain. And as long as you keep playing along, he wins. But here's the truth. You don't have to play. This isn't some battle you need to outsmart him in. This isn't a war where you have to prove your worth through patience and endurance. You win the moment you refuse to play. So stop responding to his half-efforts. Stop waiting for him to choose you. Stop over-analyzing his every move like his attention is some kind of prize. Because his love is not a prize. His attention is not validation. His inconsistency is not a challenge for you to overcome. You're not here to participate in a game that only benefits him. So end it. Walk away without an announcement. Drop the rope without explanation. Let him sit there, confused, wondering why his usual tricks aren't working anymore. Because here's the truth. The second you stop reacting, he loses all his power. Picture this. 2 players at a chessboard. He's been making his moves, expecting you to counter. He's been strategizing, expecting you to adjust. But then you do something he never saw coming. You stand up and leave the game entirely. Checkmate. Because a man who plays games with your heart isn't a man worth keeping. A real man doesn't test your patience to see how much you'll endure. He doesn't create chaos just to see if you'll stay. He chooses you clearly and consistently. And if he's not doing that, then he's not a loss. He's a lesson. So say this out loud. I do not play games. I walk away from them. And from this moment on, live by it. Because when a woman stops playing, the game ends, and the man who thought he was winning becomes just another forgotten player. Number 8. He thinks he can win. Prove him wrong. He thinks he's got you exactly where he wants you. He thinks no matter what he does, you'll always come back. He thinks you'll keep forgiving, keep trying, keep lowering yourself just to meet him where he refuses to rise. In his mind, he's already won. Because so far, you've let him. You've played by his rules. You've waited. You've tolerated. You've hoped that if you just love him harder, if you just give him more time, if you just prove that you're different, he'll finally step up. But let me make something clear. This is not love. This is a game. And the only way to win is to stop playing. Right now, he believes that you'll never truly leave, that no matter how much he neglects you, you'll still be there, that no matter how much he takes, you'll keep giving. And as long as you keep proving him right, he'll never change. But here's where he's wrong. He underestimated you. He thought you were weak. He thought you were desperate. He thought you needed him more than he needed you. And now, you're about to show him what a real loss feels like. Stop waiting for him to wake up and realize your worth. Stop thinking that one day he'll regret everything and magically transform into the man you deserve. A man like this doesn't change. He just finds new women to manipulate. Unless, of course, you prove him wrong. How? by walking away and never looking back. Not to teach him a lesson, not to make him chase you, not to trigger some dramatic realization, but because you finally understand that you are the prize. He was never winning. You were settling. And the moment you stop settling, he loses everything. So let him sit in his arrogance. Let him think he still has power over you. Let him laugh. Let him assume he's still in control. Because soon, he will realize he was dead wrong. When he reaches out and you don't reply. When he tests the waters and finds them ice cold. When he finally understands that the woman who once gave him everything is now giving him nothing. And by then, it's too late. So say this out loud. I am not something to be won. I am something to be cherished, and I refuse to settle for less. And let those words guide you. Because the moment you prove him wrong, you prove yourself right. And that is the real victory. So queens, this is your moment. No more waiting, no more playing along, no more settling for less than you deserve. You are the prize, the standard, the woman who will never be played again. Walk away, level up, and let him realize, too late, that he was never winning. If this message hit home, drop a comment. I choose me, and claim your power. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to spread this truth to every woman who needs to hear it. Stay strong, stay untouchable, and remember, queens don't chase, they replace. See you in the next one.